Jeff, out here today, this crew is planting with a planting tool that is commonly called a hodad. And they're doing an excellent job in the way that they're planting the seedlings. However, you know, sometimes people can plant a seedling the wrong way. Unfortunately, it happens quite a bit. And typically, when it is planted the wrong way, the seedling doesn't survive and you have a high mortality on the stand. Can you demonstrate to us exactly how or the proper way to use a hodad, and then show us what a properly planted seedling looks like?
You want to make sure you're using the hodad with a 60-degree collar. This is not a 90-degree angle on this hodad. It has a 60-degree collar. We've been using these for years. And you want to make sure your blade length, that you got a minimum of 8 inches from the tip here to the collar. And that's really what you want. This is a new blade on this one.
Right.
And the proper way I like to see them do it is when they come up and come straight down in the ground. I hit a root that time, but come up and come down. And then they'll lift like this. And when they pull back, you've got a good clean hole right there because the hodad is holding the dirt back, and that's why I like to use them. You give it a pack with the hodad, a step with your foot, because you want to close that hole that you make, the packing hole,
right,
because the moisture will wick from where the tree is out here and evaporate.
Right.
So you want that hole closed off, so that's what the kick is about. And then you get a good tight seedling, you can grab and pull needles out, and that seedling doesn't move.
Right. And that seedling now is planted probably I'd say at least 1 to 2 inches above the root collar,
yes,
which ensures that it's a deeply planted seedling and it's a tight planted seedling. Also, the tree is at the proper angle. Sometimes improperly planted seedlings will be at an angle, and that causes a whole different list of problems.
Oh yeah, if the crew is allowed to get lazy, and they will, and they'll come up and they'll stick that hodad in at an angle like that, and they'll come in and stick that tree down, and then your trees are leaning, but it's shallow. It's coming in at an angle, so the bottom of the root is much closer to the top of the ground.
And if we get a early spring or a early summer drought,
or a little drought, yeah,
and those roots are not as deep in the soil, and the top 1 to 2 inches of the soil dries out, that can also cause that seedling to die.
Oh, it will. If that root is in, and you can even kind of hide it by when you plant it and pull up on it to pack it, but by digging and checking behind, you can tell what angle that seedling was planted. And also just by watching them go out with the hodads, and you want to see that hodad going straight down in the ground like that. And this is good sandy ground, so a spring drought will hurt you
right
on it. So you want that root good and deep down to the moisture where
right,
it won't dry out.
Right. And that's not something that a new planter can just pick up as he comes off and starts planting. That takes experience to learn, and it takes good supervision over that planter to make sure he's doing it the wrong way, because if you learn to do something the wrong way, it's harder to convert someone back to doing it the right way.
Well, that's why I don't mind rookie planters, new guys, first time. I make sure the crew leader works with them and shows them the correct technique. And if they start out using the correct technique, it's just like swinging a bat and hitting a baseball.
Right.
Good techniques has good results.
Like riding a bicycle.
Yeah, riding a bicycle, you know.
So, exactly. So there's another planting implement that I'm holding here, and this is, a lot of times tree planters will use these. This is called a planting dibble. These come in different configurations. Sometimes they'll have shorter handles. Sometimes the shank on the end will actually come out to an angle or a spike or a point. Sometimes they can be a little wider. This is just a flat shank dibble like that I had today. And these can also be very good planting tools, but as the same way as what goes with the hodad, if you don't use it properly, you can basically handicap the tree or even cause the tree to die in the growing season. So when you use one of these, if you use one of these, you want to make sure that you're getting the blade deep in the ground, and you want to use a back and forth motion to open up the seedling hole. Now, contrary to with the hodad, when Jeff was opening the hole with it and holding the soil back with the hodad, with the dibble, a lot of times you have to bring the implement out of the hole, and then you just work the seedling into the ground, making sure that you don't J-root it or L-root it, and bring it up. Make sure all your laterals are in. Then you come back and repeat the process just to the side to close the hole up, and then use the heel to close in that opening. That also keeps the moisture in the seedling. You can grab the seedling then, just like with the hodad, pull needles off to make sure it's tight enough. But again, as you said, this is really sandy soil. If you get into a soil where you have a lot of clay content, this may handicap the planters in that they can't get it deep enough because of the compaction, and then the hodad is really a plus on those planting sites because you're getting more downward force and able to get the seedling a little deeper.
And I've used dibble crews in the past and have no problem with the dibble, but if you'll watch these guys as they plant, usually they just giving it a jab and they're not getting that foot up there on it. And to me, you can just get a little more force going with the hodad, get it a little deeper, and you know, they're gonna give it a jab, give it one push, and then try to stick the tree in. Well, in this sandy soil, that dirt will fall back in. It's much easier to J-root that tree.
Right.
And not get it deep.
And it's also easier to shallow plant it.
Yeah, shallow plant, like I say, because they're just giving it a jab with their hand and not really getting that foot on it.
Right.
So if you're using a dibble crew, you really want to see them put it in the ground, at least hit it with that foot one time to get it on deep like you want it, and get that seedling, you know, really planted up above the root collar in there.
Right. And let's face it, if the seedling's not deep and tight, it's not going to survive more than likely.
Most likely not going to survive.
Exactly. So those are the two requirements. Well, thank you for showing that to us today. We really appreciate it, and thank y'all.